Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Believe in best.
Tonight on Our News, public healthcare workers not backing down 6 days into a sick out. Doctors Hospital overwhelmed with COVID patients. The health minister's driver and secretary returned their honorarium. And a man murdered in Fox Hill. Welcome to Our News, and thanks for joining us. I'm Christina Dragovich. Topping news tonight, Princess Margaret Hospital is on the brink of collapse, according to a consultant in the Accident and Emergency Department. Kyle Joaquin takes us on a tour of the facility where officials say they are bursting at the seams and there's no room at the inn.
People are dying. Young people are dying. We have people pull up at the critical care block, not breathing.
It's a sight you would have to see to believe. Patients lined along the walls, next to each other, some crammed in one space in A&E at PMH, with others crying and groaning in pain. The situation almost too hard to bear for physicians, nurses, and other staff with the mammoth task of giving care.
We passed the breaking point. And I don't know how you could be past the breaking point, but it is to that extent. We have hospital workers who themselves have lost their loved ones to COVID. And even in that, I've lost my father to COVID. Oh, nice. And I had to pick myself up and remain in the fight.
Our cameras were allowed in PMH to show the severity of the situation with the hospital over capacity. Walking through, you'd see memorials of PMH staff who have died during the pandemic. But the situation is so bad, areas designated for staff now being used for patients. At this hospital, there is no room in the inn, not even for those critically ill needing to come from the Family Islands.
Calling from Andros, they're calling from Eleuthera. They have patients either symptomatic for COVID and testing positive, or they need to be investigated for COVID. I have nowhere to put them, and so I have to delay their transfer.
The situation here at PMH is dire, as one physician says they are on the brink of collapse. And to put it into context for you, we are in the special pathogens unit, where they have a capacity of 35. Right now, they have 34. With COVID positive patients inside and outside, the hospital is bursting at the seams.
Those are the tents that are housing all of our COVID positive patients. And there's a barricade that's actually set up so that we would keep the distance that is needed so that we who are out here would not be exposed to the COVID positive patients.
From the outside, you can hear coughing. Those patients on their hospital bed hoping to get better as they battle the COVID-19 virus.
I don't see this continuing like this. We must have a relief. Something has to happen for the whole medical team, that's doctors, nurses, support, and indeed the actual organization, because we have nowhere else. We have run out of space.
On another makeshift ward outside, 8 other COVID patients.
6 COVID patients can hold in the legacy unit. Unfortunately, we won't be able to go to that space, okay?
Are people over there now?
Yes, it's full.
While health officials await the results of test samples to confirm the Delta variant or any others in country, consultant physician Dr. Raquel Davis, who works in A&E, doesn't doubt Delta is here.
This Delta variant, we have no empirical evidence that is in country, but we know it's here. And this is the worst it's ever been for the whole time of the pandemic, since March of 2020.
And with the morgue over capacity, PMH has had to bring in an external cooler trailer, which is now being used to house bodies. The situation so dire, bodies are being stored on top of each other.
The morgue is designed for the storage of about 73, 75 persons, and we're way over 250 plus persons in the morgue right now.
Officials once again making a plea for people to go out and get vaccinated. For Our News, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Well, Doctors Hospital CEO Dr. Charles Digges says the private facility is under extreme pressure as it seeks to provide care for both COVID and non-COVID patients. Jared Higgs has more.
24 hours or even 18 hours, we saw about 3 deaths, which is a significant ramp up.
It's a grim picture being painted by Digges as the facility is at capacity with COVID patients and staff and supplies are stretched thin. Usually with an emergency room capacity of 35. Digges says that number is now at 50, with 47 people being treated for COVID-19 related problems. He added that he doesn't want to see Doctors Hospital turn patients away, but staff are under pressure.
And coming from our physician leadership, saying very clearly, this situation is difficult to sustain. We cannot, from their perspective, continue to absorb 40, 50 patients with COVID on a daily basis and have somewhere indoors to place them.
Then there's the strain on the resources. Not only is COVID care costly, but key resources like oxygen have been in shorter supply recently. Ventilators are also in limited numbers in the country.
Resources need to be employed to treat patients, especially ventilation, which is a whole different and important subject as we begin to run out of ventilators. That cost is not inexpensive. COVID care, severe COVID care, is very expensive.
The situation has Doctors Hospital in crisis mode, and Diggis reminds the general public that they also have to care for non-COVID patients, although that number makes up a minority of its current patients. With COVID hospitalization still high, tough decisions have to be made.
Today, we have convened meetings to start the discussion on who gets the ventilator, who gets put on a breathing machine when you have one breathing machine left and you have to choose between 2 or 3 patients who would qualify to go on such machines, because all 15 or 16 of our pool of ventilators now are in use.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jared Higgs.
And it's day 6 of a sick out by public healthcare workers as around 300 employees called in sick. However, the BPSU leader continues to deny that workers have taken industrial action. Kyle Joaquin has the latest.
What is going on? We're trying to figure out what is going on because the families are frustrated.
An undertaker stands outside the Rand morgue at PMH waiting for hours to collect the body. It comes as the morgue resumes services after 4 days amid a sick out at the hospital.
What is the frustrating is you have families out here.
Family members standing outside here.
Who are trying to figure out what's going on. Right. They had a loved one die from last week Thursday and still have yet to do a proper identification on them.
Right. When we reached out to PHA's communication team today, we were informed that some bodies have been released and identifications have resumed. But it's the 6th day in a row that around 300 healthcare professionals between PMH, Rand Memorial Hospital in Grand Bahama, and Sandilands Rehabilitation Center have called in sick amid uproar over honorarium payments. And when reporters sought to get a statement from Health Minister Renwood Wells outside Cabinet today,
my statement stands.
There's a sick out that's been going on for days now.
We're on a sick out?
Need a response from the Minister of Health on this. Minister?
He walked away. PHA said in a statement that PMH is experiencing limited staffing in radiology, lab services, laundry, food, and diagnostics. Bahamas Public Service Union President Kingsley Ferguson says he met with Public Hospitals Authority officials yesterday afternoon, and he was informed a revised honorarium list would be coming out. However, he says the meeting still wasn't as favorable as he'd hoped.
There are some persons that are trying to make excuses because there was no definitive indication regarding who qualifies for the honorarium. And so, again, we were advised to try to separate what is happening at the Ministry of Health with what is happening at PHA, which is totally impossible.
Ferguson says though the sick out was not an action sanctioned by the union, there is possible industrial action looming.
This has not taken the form of a trade dispute yet. We have to consult with the union's attorney to see exactly how we can pursue it in that regard to make sure that we get the ultimate response.
In the meantime, the union leader says he's still trying his options with the Minister of Health, whom he says spoke with him by phone over the weekend, and the Minister of Labor, who he can't seem to reach.
The discussions were not very fruitful. He promised to return a call to me on Saturday evening. I never got that call. I want to say publicly, the Minister of Labor don't answer my calls. I call him all the time. He don't answer my calls.
For Our News, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Meanwhile, Minister of Health Renwood Wells revealing on Monday that he asked his driver and personal assistant to return honorariums given to them for working during the COVID-19 pandemic. Jared Higgs has the details.
After refuting claims that he received a $10,000 honorarium and that his personal assistant and driver received $5,000 payments, Wells revealed that he asked his driver and personal assistant to return the $1,158.40 they got for being non-frontline workers in healthcare during the first wave.
I have asked both my driver and personal assistant to return the $1,158.40 that was disbursed to them from the Bahamas government. They have agreed and have returned the amount disbursed to them.
The revelation comes as healthcare workers are engaged in a days-long sick-out, believed to be due to them not getting COVID-19 honorariums. Government promised the payments to healthcare workers who were on the front line during the first wave of the pandemic. In a pre-recorded video released Monday evening, Wells says he didn't pick the recipients.
I made no recommendations as to who should receive an honorarium payment. The names of all persons to receive an honorarium was recommended by a select committee within the Ministry of Health.
Social media users erupted at the news, with many suggesting that if they were the driver or personal assistant, they wouldn't return the $1,158.40. One Twitter user wrote that they would give back the 40 cents respectfully, while another wrote, "Me and my colleagues burning out on the front line in Grand Bahama and couldn't see a cent of this money, but your driver and assistant could?" Meanwhile, PLP Chairman Fred Mitchell suggested that Wells should resign.
And there's only one course of action when a minister makes that kind of faux pas. He's got to do what we call the honorable thing, which is to say to the Prime Minister, this has become a mess, I'm a distraction to the government, therefore I must go. Thank you very much for allowing me to serve.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jared Higgs.
In other news, police are investigating a murder in the Fox Hill area. Our News understands the victim is a father of 7 who was leaving for work this morning when he was shot and killed. Giorgio Bain reports.
Family members were inconsolable on the crime scene as officers of the Criminal Investigation Department removed gun shell casings from the front and side of the victim's white tow truck parked just outside his home. According to Superintendent Michael Johnson, the victim was walking to his truck when a gunman opened fire on him.
Sometime shortly before 11 a.m. this morning, a male victim was leaving a residence just behind me. Just as he was about to enter into his vehicle, he was approached by a male who was armed with a handgun, who approached him and shot him multiple times about the body. The basic information is that this person came on foot and left in a northern direction.
Police battled rainy conditions as they began their preliminary investigation. Family members identified the victim as Novato Naren, a father of 7, believed to be in his early 40s. His neighbor, who declined an on-camera interview, recalls hearing the ordeal unfold. He described Naren as a quiet and peaceful man. Superintendent Johnson said police will investigate to determine if there is a link between this incident and any of the other recent murders.
We're still early in this particular investigation, and that would be part of our inquiry to see if there's any nexus between that incident and this incident.
Is the victim known to police?
I can't give you that information at this time, sir. All we're getting is a male in dark clothing. That's all we're getting at this time.
Police are now appealing to the public to help them find the person responsible for this latest murder.
Appealing to members of the public who may have any information, especially members of this close-knit community, to please call the Criminal Investigation Department at 502-999-123 or Crime Tipsers.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Giorgio Bain.
Well, another 90-degree day here in the capital. Greg Thompson is in the Weather Center with the latest.
Thanks, Christina, and welcome everybody for your Tuesday's first look at weather. Those summer-like temperatures remaining with us. We got into the 90s once again today, but temperatures in the mid-80s, 84 outside our studios with few clouds. It's warm outside. You got a nice wind east at 8 knots with some gusts, and your feels-like temperature in the mid to upper 80s. Satellite view, quiet across our area, courtesy of a high pressure that's building across, but we have a tight pressure gradient between Grace to the south and that high pressure generating some brisk winds that's bringing in a couple of showers. We will continue to experience those winds throughout the rest of the night and into tomorrow. That's your first look at weather. Your extended forecast is still to come.
Still to come on Our News, $1 million in COVID fines racking up, And the Education Minister unfazed by an industrial action threat. Stay with us.
The Great True True Bahamian Treasure Hunt is here, where you can win great vacation prize packages to hotels throughout the Bahamas. Watch Our TV on weeknights between 6 and 11 p.m. for your 10 True True Bahamian clues. Take note of your answers and clues. You never know, you might see the same clue twice. Follow Our TV Originals on Facebook to submit your correct answers before 11 a.m. every Saturday. Watch Our News Saturdays at 7:30 p.m. to see if you are the weekly winner. If you didn't win, watch for clues next week because the contest runs all summer long. Go to Our TV Originals Facebook page for more information and contest details.
National Insurance Minister Brensel Roll estimates 16,000 Bahamians are still receiving unemployment assistance. He says the National Insurance Board has paid out more than $100 million, with the government paying out $250 million in unemployment assistance during the pandemic.
Many of these individuals have not in the past contributed to NIB, but they're benefited through the program because of the government's commitment to making sure that those persons had bread on the table or something to eat.
Roll says at the peak of the pandemic, government was shelling out $16 million every 2 weeks in unemployment assistance. Around that time, there were 34,000 people receiving assistance. The program is set to expire at the end of September. Roll says no decision has been made on whether to extend it.
You were aware that the emergency orders were just extended. We have not met since that episode. We will discuss that shortly, but that's apparently about 6 weeks away because the last payment is due the end of September.
Meanwhile, law enforcement officers and COVID-19 patrol units have issued well over $1 million in fines for COVID protocol infractions, according to National Security Minister Marvin Dames. He says citations have been handed out from public parks and beaches to businesses and individuals breaking protocol.
I commend this initiative that was brought on by this government. It was pioneering and trailblazing, and these COVID ambassadors, along with the police officers and defense force officers, are doing a tremendous job.
Education Minister Jeffrey Lloyd says he's not concerned about a threat from Bahamas Union of Teachers President Belinda Wilson, who called on teachers to prepare for industrial action if schools are not ready for reopening on August 30th. Blended or hybrid formats have been proposed for islands like New Providence. Lloyd says all schools will be ready.
Not whatsoever, no concern whatsoever, because we are doing everything we can and we ought to do to get our students and our teachers and our administrators ready for school. In terms of repairs, those repairs are ongoing, and we fully expect that all schools will be ready, repairs will be completed in time for the August 30th presentation start of the school year.
Lloyd also clarifying government's position on vaccinations ahead of the new school year. He says COVID-19 vaccination is not a requirement.
What I said was, any child entering a public school for the very first time, that is the student who is coming into either preschool or grade 1, would have to show proof of immunization or vaccine.
It's now time for tonight's Financial Market Minute, brought to you by RF, your local investment bank. This has been your Financial Market Minute. To explore the best performing mutual funds in the Bahamas, visit our website at www.rfgroup.com.
When our news returns, schools ramp up safety measures, plus a pediatrician talks teenage vaccinations. We have the details when our news returns.
The great True True Bahamian Treasure Hunt is here, where you can win great vacation prize packages to hotels throughout the Bahamas. Watch our TV on weeknights between 6 and 11 p.m. for your 10 True True Bahamian clues. Take note of your answers and clues. You never know, you might see the same clue twice. Follow our TV originals on Facebook to submit your correct answers before 11 a.m. every Saturday. Watch our news Saturdays at 7:30 p.m. to see if you are the weekly winner. If you didn't win, watch for clues next week because the contest runs all summer long. Go to our TV originals Facebook page for more information and contest details.
This is our news. Welcome back. 2020 brought unprecedented challenges for schools as they adjusted to education in a COVID era. As a new school year approaches, some schools are assuring parents that they're doing all they can to keep students and staff safe. Jillian Gray has that.
From reduced class sizes and testing to full-body sanitization machines and a bubble approach to learning, schools say they have added even more measures to the regular protocols to ensure students are safe.
We partnered with a doctor who's going to test our kids to make sure that the antigen test for our kids prior to coming in. Also, a list of questionnaires parents will have to answer every single morning.
Even when they go outside, they have zones that they're able to stay in during the break times. During the little, what we call the air breaks, and so they can only stay in their zones with their bubble buddies.
With case numbers climbing and children as young as a week old testing positive for COVID-19, schools are not taking any chances this year. Deputy Administrator of Tabernacle Baptist Christian School on Grand Bahama, Norris Bain, says it's going to take parents, staff, and especially students following the protocols off campus in order to keep everyone safe on campus.
Don't do birthday parties now. Don't let your children go around large gathering to come into the school.
The Grand Bahama administrator says he's fully vaccinated and has encouraged others around him to get vaccinated as well. But ultimately, it's a personal choice. That's why his school, along with ISBET and the Catholic Board of Education, say they won't require students to be vaccinated for COVID-19 in order to be admitted to school.
It's definitely not a requirement. I believe that we just rolled it out here in the Bahamas, and so we have to give it time.
It's not something that we can make mandatory.
We're not going to force anybody to take the vaccine.
The Ministry of Education has also made it clear that the COVID-19 vaccination is not mandatory. ISBET's Senior Director, Mitzi Turnquest, says as a mother, she understands what an important decision this is for parents.
I'm a parent as well, and so I'm not rushing to take my son to go and take the vaccination, so I would eventually go ahead and do so. I just need to read up some more and get some more information on it, especially as related to the kids.
Some parents say they're skeptical of possible side effects and won't be allowing their children to take it.
Would you let them take it?
No.
No?
I wouldn't even take it myself, because especially if you get underlying issues.
One thing parents and educators say is that it's students' safety that's top priority, and they say they'll work together to figure out the right formula to ensure that students remain safe. Reporting for our news, I'm Jillian Gray.
And with the rollout of the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine for children as young as 12 beginning in the Bahamas on Thursday, pediatricians are advising parents to get the facts to make the best possible decision for their teens and preteens.
With this new variant, the Delta variant, we haven't confirmed yet that that's what's in the Bahamas, but we have had an increased number of children being hospitalized. We're seeing a lot of children coming in even more sicker than the last year.
Consultant pediatrician Dr. Deshawn Saunders says children are still at risk of contracting COVID.
Any kid that's above the age of 12, once there's no contraindications to getting the vaccine, our goal is to encourage that they get vaccinated. Vaccination saves lives. And in the U.S., we've had children that have died from COVID, and we don't want to have that statistic here.
Some parents are concerned about rare side effects associated with the Pfizer vaccine for teens, including the inflammation of the heart, or myocarditis and pericarditis.
The side effect that you talked about, it is very rare. It's ideally seen more in males, and studies have shown that it was actually seen more in males between the ages of 19 and 25. However, we still would want parents to be aware. Everything has side effects. Medications have side effects, but we'd want parents just to be aware. The side effect of myocarditis, they may have chest pain, shortness of breath, but it's very rarely documented.
The Centers for Disease Control advises that the known and potential benefits of COVID-19 vaccination outweigh the known and potential risks, including the possible risk of myocarditis or pericarditis. Dr. Saunders says there are side effects with everything, but some of the more common side effects of vaccinations can be treated with supportive care.
Some kids may have a fever, they may have chills, they may have headaches, they may have muscle pain. So we would encourage that once the vaccine is given, they either take Panadol or Tylenol, some form of acetaminophen, so they can alleviate those symptoms.
The rollout of the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine begins on Thursday at the Kendall Jill Isaacs Gym. Well, meteorologists still watching a weather system. That's coming up when our news returns.
The great True True Bahamian Treasure Hunt is here, where you can win great vacation prize packages to hotels throughout the Bahamas. Watch our TV on weeknights between 6 and 11 p.m. for your 10 True True Bahamian clues. Take note of your answers and clues. You never know, you might see the same clue twice. Follow our TV originals on Facebook to submit your correct answers before 11 a.m. every Saturday. Watch our news Saturdays at 7:30 p.m. to see if you are the weekly winner. If you didn't win, watch for clues next week because the contest runs all summer long. Go to our TV originals Facebook page for more information and contest details.
Welcome back to our news. Some rain may be ahead, but mostly pleasant conditions are coming up. Greg is back with the details.
Thanks again, Christine, and welcome back, everybody, for your second look at weather. We have three systems out there that we were tracking over the last day or so. That is Fred, now moving into the central portions of the United States. Showers and thunderstorms associated with that system spreading across the eastern portions of the United States. Georgia, South Carolina getting in on some of that action. Some of that actually extend a rain band across central Florida, but that will move away and high pressure will build across the Bahamas in the meantime. We also have Honorarium, which is a tropical storm near Bermuda. It's supposed to make a clockwise rotation around Bermuda and move into some cooler waters and eventually die out. Then, of course, we have Grace, which is gaining some strength. It's passing to the south of the Bahamas, some high-level clouds moving across the area, impacting Jamaica now and eastern Cuba. By the next 24 to 36 hours, it should be moving into the Cayman Islands, eventually moving towards the west-northwest. Looking at its track, this is how Grace is going to be moving over the next couple of days. It should be moving near the Yucatan Peninsula by Thursday into Friday, and then eventually making possibly hurricane status before it enters into Mexico, and that's by the end of the week. Of course, the tropics are a little busy, and we have another tropical wave that we're going to continue to watch out there in the far eastern Atlantic. Boating forecast for all areas tonight through tomorrow. Your winds will be out of the east to southeast at 15 to 20 knots with some higher gusts. Seas running 4 to 7 feet. Caution flag posted. Your low tide will be at 10:45 tonight. Here's a look now at your national forecast. A look now at your extended forecast through Sunday. We can expect some moderate winds for the rest of the week, but beautiful weather expected. Back to you, Christina.
Thanks, Greg, and thank you for joining us for our news tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Christina Dragovich. We'll see you right back here tomorrow night. Have a beautiful evening, Bahamas.